Welcome back to the Impact Lounge. You are in the number one place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. This is the Cool Factor Podcast, and I'm your host, TW. Flying solo for now. BQ will be back sooner rather than later. I got some rumors coming through the rumor mill. I think it was Iceman. He told me that BQ might be on the way back. He's doing his training, saying his prayers, and taking his vitamins. And he's working his way back. He's training in the gym like Rich Swann was. Hopefully nobody comes and re-injures his ankle and, makes him out for another couple of months. But we'll see BQ back sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm your boy TW, here to rock with you and get you through this week of Impact-related news and talk about the show and what's going on with Impact. All right? So, y'all ready? Listen, this was not a huge newsworthy week outside of the ring for Impact. So we're going to do a lot of focusing on the show. And coming up tonight, by the time you see this, you'll probably see this on Saturday, is Under Siege. So the show this week was really just getting us set up for Under Siege, locking everything in, and getting everything ready to go, getting us in position for Under Siege. And so one of the things they're setting up is the Knockouts title match. We had a number one contenders match between Rosemary and Havoc. And Havoc beat Rosemary. So Havoc's the number one contender now. And then Deonna Purrazzo attacks Havoc after the match. Now, of course Havoc left her laying with a tombstone. But here's the thing that I think is interesting here, right? Like, Havoc is a credible challenger. Right, that's no doubt. Like, just because of her size, because of the fact we've seen her be dominant before, we know that Havoc is a credible challenger to the Knockouts Championship. Really, at any time she wants to be the challenger. But it would just be stupid to take the title off Deonna Purrazzo right now. She's got all the momentum in the world. She's planning on challenging for the Reina de Reyes Championship at Triple Mania, I believe. And you could argue that she's been kept stronger than anybody in the company. Other than Moose. Actually, Moose was kept strong for a long time, but being that he lost to Rich Swann, I would say that strong streak is not over, but he kind of has to, to reshuffle and start building it back up. He's, established near as a top card guy now, but nobody's been kept stronger than Deonna Purrazzo since, certainly last summer. So if that's your person who's being kept the strongest, she's already a two-time Knockouts champ. To me, it just would seem silly to take the title off of her right now, especially leading into Slammiversary when you could potentially have a big match with, someone who could become available, like a Mickie James or a Chelsea Green, somebody like that. So to me, the idea that Deonna Purrazzo could lose the title to Havoc at Under Siege is crazy. It seems like slim to none, but again, Havoc is a credible challenger, right? Like, there's no situation in which you're like, hey, she lost to Havoc. I can't believe that. Like, Havoc is somebody who you could always believe could beat her opponent. So I don't think she's gonna lose, but if you ask me to put money on it, I would say Deonna Purrazzo is gonna be still the Knockouts champion after Under Siege. All right. Another title match that they set up for Under Siege with something from this show was the X Division Championship. So we had El Phantasmo winning a 5-way match against Rohit Raju, AC Romero, Petey Williams, and Ace Austin. Winning it, obviously, like I said before, made him the number one contender for the X Division Championship, and he's going to take on Josh Alexander at Under Siege. Now, here's what I think is interesting here, right? This is what's giving me a little bit of pause. It's making me ask Impact, what are you doing? And not even necessarily like in a bad way, but I'm just generally curious as to what you're doing. Why do I say that? El Phantasmo versus Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. Yes, he'll be at Impact Wrestling for the X Division Championship. El Phantasmo versus Josh Alexander, I think, is going to be the match of the night. Like, that has show stealer written all over it. This guy, El Phantasmo, has been just lights out since he came to Impact. He's a show stealer, comes out with all the energy. He's just like a crazy, He's like he's like a Shinsuke Nakamura, like without the WWE handcuffs on, and he's wild, man. Like he wrestles, just like the things he does, right? Like he was walking the ring ropes, he did all around the ring, and then came around and kicked somebody in the face. Like this guy just has so much energy and very innovative style of wrestling. I could 100% see them putting the X Division title on him, but this is where I would say, what are you doing? Because Josh Alexander is one of the pillars, one of the building blocks of this organization going forward. For him to lose the X Division Championship to a guy who's only had 2 matches in Impact, woo, that just would not be a good look. It would say you have no faith in Josh Alexander, which you may not, right? If you're Impact Management, you may not have any faith in Josh Alexander. I think that's foolish because to me, I look at Josh Alexander and I see somebody who can be this generation's version of Kurt Angle. You'd have to bring the personality stuff out of him, but as far as somebody who you look at and you can 100% believe this guy could take you apart physically, Josh Alexander has that in spades. And so I think he's the type of guy that Impact should be building everything around. And the idea that he's going to lose the X Division title to a AAA guy, I'm sorry, not a AAA guy, but a New Japan guy, and then that will be another title that Impact would have with a New Japan talent and could potentially be off the show for weeks or months at a time. That sounds crazy, but I can't lie. I wouldn't put it past these guys to do it. They've repeatedly, just given me the impression that they don't think the guys they have are anything special. And so if they don't think the guys they have are anything special, then I wouldn't be too shocked if they decided to give someone like El Phantasmo, who's a great performer, but somebody who they view as a person with more outside eyeballs that they would bring with them. I could totally see them putting the title on El Phantasmo. Now, if I had to bet money on it, it's a close call. I honestly could see it going either way. I could totally see it going anyway. But I'm going to have faith. I'm going to have faith in Impact Wrestling to do the right thing and to stick with the guy who's your homegrown guy, who you're trying to build in Josh Alexander. And so I'm going to take Josh Alexander to get the win at Under Siege over El Phantasmo. And I'm calling it now. This is going to be the show stealer. This is going to be the match of the night. We had a backstage segment with Susan and Kimberly in Scott D'Amore's office, and Susan was upset. I gotta tell you, I think that I don't know her real name, but the person who plays Susan, she's been one of the most underrated characters in wrestling, just for the fact that she does the Su Yung character. She did the Susie character, which was night and day from Su Yung, and now she's doing the Susan character, which I guess would be afternoon if the other two were night and day. But but either way, it's 3 totally different characters, and they're all fun. They're all fun to watch. This is one of the more underrated performances in all of wrestling, I would say. So Susan's in the office, and she's complaining that Taylor Wilde and Tenille Dashwood are in cahoots. And she's saying that she wants a tag team match with Kimberly versus the 2 of them. And Scott D'Amore gives her the match. He makes it for Under Siege. And he goes, "Will that make you happy?" And she goes, "I'll tolerate it." Oh, I found that too funny. She really just has this character down. It's a funny character, and I love it. So we got the match coming up for Under Siege. Is going to be Kimberly and not Su Yung, and Susan versus Taylor Wilde and Tenille Dashwood. We got a Violent by Design promo, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not really sure what all they were talking about. Like, Eric Young was just basically saying, this is wrong, you're gonna see a lot more of us. And I'm like, cool talk, see you out there. I guess, I don't know. There's a Swingers Palace segment, and in this Swingers Palace, it seemed like everybody who was in the 5-way X Division match, was now coming back to Swingers Palace and suddenly wanted a tag team title shot. So all the conversation this time was about betting on who would be the next number one contenders for the X Division title. Like TJP was there first, then Ace Austin and Madman Fulton come in. Then AC Romero and Larry D come in, and then just before, and then Petey Williams comes in, and he kind of threatens to do the Steiner Math promo again. Everybody's like, ah, and they leave. But I mean, listen, some of these Swingers Palace segments are just like completely ridiculous. But the fact that this is the vehicle that they're using to book matches, pretty ridiculous. Pretty ridiculous. I mean, there's a much better way to book matches. Listen, just come here close. Come here close. Look. Build up the tag teams. Let us see the tag teams working together and winning so that we look at them and think, oh man, that's a good team. They could actually win the titles. And if they do win the titles, I want to see it or I don't want to see it, right? Because I like them or I don't. Give us some reason to invest in these teams other than a completely contrived segment. We bumped into each other at Swingers Palace and have some ridiculous disagreement, and now we need a 4-way tag team match. Like, oh, you can do better. You can do better. And not only can you do better, but you can use TV time to do this, right? Like, have some tag team matches so we know what these tag teams look like, right? Rather than just putting them all in a match and expecting us to have some sort of excitement for it. You can't keep doing this and expecting to get different results. Like, this is the old bump into each other in the hallway in front of the water cooler, and now we got to have a street fight. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, God. The Impact, you can do better. You can do better. So this whole purpose was to set up the tag team match for Under Siege. It's going to be TJP and Petey Williams against Rohit Raju and Shira, who, by the way, were just fighting like 3 weeks ago, but versus Triple XL versus Ace Austin and Madman Fulton for the number one contender to the tag team championship. Very interesting as to where, I'm very curious as to where they're going to go here. With Finjuice being the champions right now, you would think that they'll go with a heel tag team to challenge him, but who knows? I think Ace Austin and Madman Fulton could be the team to bring those titles off of Finjuice, or at least challenge Finjuice and put them in a situation where, they seem to be in danger. Like, Ace Austin is Cash Money, and, for as impressive as Madman Fulton looks, they don't really do a whole lot with him, right? They don't do a whole lot to actually sell us on how bad of a dude he is. So they could do a lot more with him. And so maybe having Ace and Fulton as tag team champions would be a great vehicle to showcase what Madman Fulton can actually do. Willie Mack defeated Sam Beal in kind of a throwaway match. I gotta say though, even though they're using Sam Beal as an enhancement talent, he looks like there might be something more to him. So, hopefully he, makes a good impression on everybody in the company and they decide to use him for a bigger role later. But in this role today, he was getting squashed by Willie Mack, who has a beef brewing with W. Morrissey, and W. Morrissey attacked Willie Mack after he won this match against Sam Beal. That's a bit of a tongue twister. You can make fun of me out there in internet land, but try saying these things back to back to back on your own, okay? So W. Morrissey attacks Willie Mack after his match with Sam Beal, and he leaves him laying. W. Morrissey, the former Big Cass, he looks like a bad dude, man. He's in great shape. He's a huge dude, and he just has this look in his eyes. Like, he just really wants a shot of vodka. But the other thing, he also looks like if he doesn't get that shot of vodka, that he will rip your face off. And you can sell that, right? Like, you can sell that. So I like what I see from W. Morrissey, and I think that, I think he's going to be one of those guys that WWE fans are going to look up and be like, oh, that guy really made something of himself after he left WWE. So we'll see. I like what he's doing right now. certainly he's going to destroy Willie Mack at Under Siege. He's, you know, he's the person out of the two who appears to have way more of a future in terms of somebody that could potentially be at the top of your card. Backstage, we had Finjuice being interviewed by Mean Gia Miller, and Eddie Edwards was there too. And, Finjuice just goes back and forth talking about how they're going to, beat Anderson and Gallows. And then Eddie Edwards says, hey, last week we got left laying and Kenny Omega was the difference. So this week I brought my own Kenny. And it's the kendo stick, obviously, with the smiley face drawn on it. And you think that would come into play later in the show? We had an All About Me segment with Tenille Dashwood interviewing Taylor Wilde. And Taylor Wilde just really wanted to emphatically let Tenille and Caleb, with a K, know that she's not their friend and they're not going to be a tag team partner. They're going to be tag team partners at Under Siege for the match against Susan and Kimberly, but they are not a team. And that's the one thing that Taylor Wilde really wanted to make sure that Tenille and Caleb understood coming out of this meeting. And so that's what we got there. David Finlay defeated Carl Anderson by disqualification when Kenny Omega interfered. And of course, everybody pours in for the brawl. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, Eddie Edwards has Kenny the Kendo Stick to kind of clean house with. Now, Kenny Omega, after Kenny the Kendo Stick clears the ring, he's kind of standing on the ring, on the stage next to the Good Brothers. He's like doing like this, just like, yeah, put him up, let me at him. And when they were backstage being interviewed by Mean Gia, he was just saying a lot of just corny, dry jokes. And I gotta say, man, Kenny Omega's pretty corny. Kenny Omega has a wrestling style that a lot of people love. I'm not a fan specifically of that overly dominant style of winning, because I think when you have a guy win like that consistently, it becomes hard to beat him, right? Like, in the fans' eyes, how do you logically beat somebody who is pounding everyone into a pulp? Rich Swann, somebody who's in great condition, was just drained and beaten to within an inch of consciousness against Kenny Omega, just taking V-trigger after V-trigger after V-trigger, and finally it's the one-wing angel. And that's the style of match that Kenny Omega wrestles. Like, just it's the overkill with the finishing move so many times. And yeah, again, to me, it's just it's when you do too much, when you make somebody look too dominant, it's almost impossible to beat them without having the crowd say, wait, but didn't the last guy try that? Right? So the way they're booking Kenny Omega, I think has some built-in pitfalls. And letting him just go on the mic, he's not the guy for that. Kenny Omega is not the guy to say, yo, go fill 5 minutes, let me, let the crowd get into it, attract them to the next pay-per-view, because he don't have it like that. He's not funny, he's not witty. Like, he's fine. He does a fine job with his promos, but there's nothing about him that's really like stand out when it comes to his promos. So I don't, again, like, I just don't know why this is a guy who you want to give as much camera time as they give him. I would make him as scarce as possible. I'd make him out of sight, out of mind, just like Brock Lesnar. When you see him, it's a title match. But other than that, you're not going to see Kenny Omega, because too much Kenny Omega is not a good thing. For the main event of the show, they had, before I get to the main event, Crazy Steve defeated Brian Myers, which I thought was interesting, because Brian Myers is another one of those guys who I see as a building block of Impact going forward. So having him lose to Crazy Steve, I was like, is that something you should be doing? But then I reminded myself, bad guys don't have to win. Because bad guys don't have to be seen as strong or valiant or, being able to fight. Bad guys are supposed to be weaselly. And so they're supposed to be somebody who you don't want to see win. And when you do see bad guys win, it's supposed to make you cheer. So I'm okay with him losing to kind of a lesser opponent in Crazy Steve. I think it doesn't hurt him at all. And, again, like I said, the bad guys don't have to win all the time. So I was totally okay with that. We got a conversation backstage between Scott D'Amore and Don Callis, and there was a lot of back and forth, but the main takeaway here was that there's a little friction brewing between Scott and Don. And Scott is just not happy that Don seems to be overly obsessed with catering to Kenny Omega and just kind of being in his friend group. And he was letting him know about it. So I'll be interested to see where that's going. That's certainly leading to some sort of rift. And that wasn't something, obviously, that's going to be a throwaway thing. Like, that's going to be a major storyline going forward. So I'm looking forward to see what happens with those guys. In the main event, Sami Callihan, Moose, and Chris Bay defeated Trey Miguel, Matt Cardona, and Chris Sabin. These are the 6 guys who are going to be in the main event at Under Siege. The number 1 contender is going to be the winner of that match. And, I, like a lot of people, have been thinking that Moose was going to be the winner of this match. But they replayed a clip where Sami Callihan bumps into Don Callis backstage, and he tells him, hey, tell Kenny Omega I'm coming, right? He doesn't know when. He should just know I'm coming. And so, again, in television, nothing happens by accident. Everything is there for a reason, to set something up that's either coming immediately or it's coming a little bit down the line. And Sami Callihan leaving that message for Don Callis to give to Kenny Omega, that wasn't for nothing. So I could very well see Sami Callihan finding some way to get the win. If he pins, Matt Cardona, right? That's a way where he can be the next challenger for Kenny Omega, and you don't have to waste Moose, and you don't have to have Moose take a pin in this match as well. So now that I think about it, I think I've kind of talked myself into it. I think Sami Callihan is going to be your winner at Under Siege. He's going to be the number 1 contender and the next person to challenge Kenny Omega for the Impact World Championship. A fun item that's kind of outside the ring, but, well, it's totally outside the ring, but it completely affects what can happen inside the ring. And that is the fact that COVID restrictions seem to be getting lifted across America. There was an announcement from the CDC today that basically said if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask indoors anymore. Now, again, me personally, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to wait. I'm going to let people walk around with no mask on, and let's just see if those numbers start to rise. And let's just say I'm going to hold back until it appears a bit more safe to come outside. Listen, I've been living in quarantine for over a year now. A few more months ain't going to kill me, but a few more months not doing it just might. So, that said, they've picked the date for Slammiversary. It's going to be July 17th, and you'd have to think it's going to be in Nashville because that's where Skyway Studios is. But I think they probably have their eyes on the, what's the name of that auditorium? We talked about it last week. But I do think there's a great chance that Slammiversary will mark the return of fans to Impact Wrestling. Another interesting note about July 17th, the day that Slammiversary is going to be, is that's 3 days after the expiration of the 90-day non-compete clause for the recently released WWE talents. So I expect Slammiversary once again to be built around the buzz of who from WWE is going to show up here in Impact Wrestling. And listen, I think it's a good marketing strategy. It worked before, and I just think you got to have a good hook to keep people around after they see what the surprises are, or in a lot of cases aren't, right? You got to have a good hook that's going to keep the fans there. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with Slammiversary. And so that's pretty much it for the show. How about we get into a few of your questions from the old YouTube videos? Nightwing said this week's Impact was a great show. That's true. And by the way, I've noticed that when the Impact shows are better, you get more of you guys to tune in and watch the show. And I know why that is. That's because when you're enjoying it, you want to hear about other people who are enjoying it too, and you want to help with your fandom, right? Like, it's just, if you're enjoying something, you like to share it with other people. So that's what we're here for, okay? I'm your buddy, I'm your pal, I'm like I'm like your buddy from next door. But just don't call me to help move your couch, because I ain't doing it. All right. Terp28 says, remember when TNA had little taglines like "Cross the Line" and "We Are Wrestling"? Well, I guess Impact is wheel job for pay-per-view buys. Who's satisfied with this? Turk, I get it. I totally get it. I understand. A lot of people are a little bit taken aback by this Kenny Omega situation. And listen, it's funny because, you got a cross promotional war that's really only happening on one of the promotion shows. This is all true. You guys are not wrong about this. But I just think you got to look at it from the perspective of, this is a positive for Impact Wrestling. If Impact Wrestling makes more money, then they can grow, okay? And if they work with bigger stars, more popular names, then that makes the company more relevant. This is all good for Impact Wrestling. I'm telling you. Let's see how it works out, how it ends up. But you got to think at some point there's going to be some get back for Impact Wrestling, because at some point they have to get their belt back. So, let's just give it a chance and see where it goes. All right. Thanks for your question. All right. Bland Skies 28 says, so AEW wants to work with other promotions, unlike WWE, that sees themselves as the only wrestling promotion out there. But also, Jericho pretty much trashes on Impact. Yeah. How WWE of him. AEW could have had some Impact talents like the Knockouts and the X Division guys show up on AEW, thus making this partnership interesting, but they haven't, which is why people are already forgetting about this partnership. I disagree. People aren't forgetting about this partnership. I think that I also agree that at some point, if people are telling you what they want, which is they want to see some real, true cross-promotional action, I think you should give people what they want if they're telling you what they want. But look, it just doesn't appear at this time that that's what AEW is interested in. It's still what Impact is interested in, because Impact gets more of a rub of being featured on AEW than AEW would off of being featured on Impact. Just like Chris Jericho said, what does AEW really get out of featuring their people on Impact? I think there's something, right? Like, again, when the guys like Private Party were on Impact, I thought that was good for them. Sammy Guevara, if he would have come and actually done some work on Impact, I think that could have been good for him. So there is benefit to having some AEW guys come to Impact. But mostly, listen, Impact having Kenny Omega is a bigger draw than if they were to have, Platinum Max Caster come on Impact and start, rap dissing people. All right? So thanks for your comment. Ethan Thomas says, I would love to go to an Impact show, but no chance of it coming to the UK yet. Man, I used to love so much when they would do the Maximum Impact tour and they would do shows around the UK. Those crowds were so amazing, better crowds than they could ever pull here in the US. And the shows were good, and it was fun. So, I hope Impact gets back on a prominent station in the UK soon. And I hope Impact can go back on tour in UK and can pull some of those great crowds. All right. Brando Sciandra says, Bully Ray was right about the way AEW presented the Impact World title on Dynamite. It shouldn't have been carried out by Naka Nobody. I totally agree with you. As you guys can see, I've been mostly trying to be the voice of reason when it comes to this Impact AEW partnership. And while I understand that everyone would like to see more presentation of Impact on AEW, Impact is still getting the benefit out of this partnership. Whether you like it or not, it's the truth. But I totally agree that when Kenny Omega came out on Dynamite, he should have been the one carrying the Impact title. Even if he was carrying the Impact title and letting Nakazawa carry the TNA title, right? Like, I thought you should still show some respect for the company's title that you're carrying. So I totally agree with Bully Ray and Brando's comment on that one. All right, in Baldwin 45 Dropped a long comment here. Let's see. Let's see. That's awesome news about Jordan re-signing. It sounds like Impact is finally getting the Knockouts division back into shape, but they still need her. I guess there wasn't much interest from WWE or AEW if the WWE women's division is more diverse than it was during Johnny Ace's swimsuit model days. She doesn't quite fit the mold. She doesn't quite fit the mold there and would have to work her way up from NXT. AEW is crawling with female wrestlers, so she'd be lost in the shuffle there. Back to Impact. Killer Kelly versus Jordan Grace could be. Let's see what else he got here. Killer Kelly versus Jordan Grace could be an amazing feud, but I'd turn Jordan heel. She's been face for ages, and she might work better as the big bruising bully. I'd like to see Jordan get a title run as a thank you for re-signing with the company, though. All right, so listen, I don't doubt. I don't think you're wrong. You know, I don't think you're wrong. I like Jordan. I think Jordan's a great talent. I think personally, Jordan needs her character fleshed out more. Like, I need to know more about who Jordan is and what motivates her. Like, I can see she's a high quality wrestler, a great athlete. Yeah, I can see all that stuff, right? But ultimately, if you really want me to care, you gotta sell me on who your character is. I want to feel like I know you and I know your motivations. So I think Jordan needs more character development, but the in-ring is top notch. You know, she's a top flight wrestler. Absolutely. Her presentation is dope. And yeah, I'm glad to see her sticking with Impact. All right, so I see you guys like some of the little comments about Jericho and that type of thing. All right, let's see. Packed Entertainment says, TW, I think you're wrong about Impact only being relevant because of AEW. Last year, even though it was COVID-19, which ruined almost everything last year, I think it was probably Impact's best year in a long time. They made wrestling headlines because of their Slammiversary teasers, which made Impact the most talked about promotion at the moment, which led to the day of the event, which got Slammiversary #2 trending on Twitter, also with Tesha Blanchard becoming the first female to hold the Impact World Heavyweight. Load of more comments. Give me a second here. Okay. The first woman to hold the Impact World Heavyweight Championship, which is not just called the Impact World Championship. It was the biggest wrestling headline at the moment it happened. And then, of course, towards the end of the year, Impact got to be the biggest wrestling headlines again with the AEW crossover partnership. All right. So, Packed Entertainment, thank you so much for your comment. Yeah, listen, I've gone over all this and I've said all this and I have gone on a whole rant saying give Scott D'Amore and Don Callis credit because one thing that they have done excellently since January of last year is take big swings. That, just like you said, they took the big swing by putting the title on Tessa. They took a big swing by running the teasers for Slammiversary. They got the whole industry riled up and watching the show. They took another big swing by getting Kenny Omega onto their show, and I think it's paying off. I think the big swings have paid off, except for the Tessa thing, but let's be honest, that wasn't really their fault. They could have done something to mitigate it. Once everything went down the way it did, they probably should have had her lose to Sami Callihan and say, hey, let's see if we can rehab you and come back to this later. But they didn't. They went through with it, and yeah, it went how it went. So, so it is what it is. They have done a great job at taking big swings, and I hope they continue to take big swings because that's the only way you're going to truly grow the audience. All right, let's see what else we got here. Lots of people commenting about the AEW partnership, the Jericho comments. Let's see. All right, let's see what we got here. Simon, very massive, huge Mr. Sasha Banks fan Walker says, I unfortunately stopped supporting Impact/TNA after 18 years of fandom. Recently, I am now a hashtag AEW guy moving forward into the future. Hashtag ways to get my fandom. Sign Enzo Amore, align him back with Big Cass, push their top tag team, sign the Iconics, bring back Mickie James, Samoa Joe to the company, and put them all in their Hall of Fame along with James Storm. That is quite a list of demands. I didn't even know what to say to that, but thank you for the suggestions. Okay, great. All right. Yeah. Aaron Comer says only 21 minutes. Yes, Aaron, it was only 21 minutes last week. Yeah, I kind of like that format. I think it's cool, short and sweet, getting to the point. As long as you guys stay entertained, that's what matters. Sometimes you'll be entertained by a longer show. Sometimes you'll be entertained by a shorter show. I also know that sometimes people like to put things on in the background and listen to them while they work or do whatever else is they're doing. And in that case, I can totally understand wanting to have a longer show. But ultimately, my job is to bring you guys quality content, stuff that you're interested in, stuff that you care about. I know I asked this question last week, but, with the idea that fans could be returning to wrestling soon, how are you guys feeling? Are you guys ready to start going back to live wrestling events in closed doors, or not open air, in closed arenas? Are you guys ready to start going back to wrestling events? I'd be very interested to hear about that. So drop those comments down in the in the comment section. Let me know. Leave your name and where you're from so I can give you a shout out on next week's show. I also want to know, who do you think could be some potential matchups that we could see at Slammiversary? I give you a chance to play guest booker a little bit. Please don't send me a whole booking scenario, but but I want to hear what type of matchups you think we're looking forward to at Slammiversary. So let me know. So all right, that's gonna be it. That's gonna be our show for today. As usual, make sure that you like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get the notifications for any time we drop new content on this page. I hope you guys are enjoying this so much. I'm having a lot of fun doing these shows. I'm having a lot of fun reading your comments. I hope you guys are enjoying it too. Follow me on Twitter at TW Talking About. Follow the Impact Lounge. Follow BQ. Let's keep these conversations going. Hey, let's get these views up. I want to get these views circulating. I want so share it, okay? Tell your friend about it who's a wrestling fan. Tell your buddy, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell everybody. Okay, let's tell everybody to check out these videos and watch them. And tell this guy he's an idiot in these videos if you don't like what he's saying. All right, follow me on Twitter at CW Talking About. Let me know what you guys think. Let's get these views up. Let's bring more people into the conversation. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys so much. I'll see you next week. Peace.